Hello, can I just check that everybody can hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone. Welcome to everyone to this evening's audit. Apologies, none that we know of. No, we've got a number of people online. We've got Bridget Uku, we've got Jonathan, our auditor, and a colleague, and we've got Tommy. And I'd like to say to people that this is going to be Tommy's last meeting. He's standing down as he's moved out of Ealing. And I would like to thank Tommy for all the work he's done over the years he's been on the committee. I have sent him an email, but we're very, very grateful for everything you've done and all the sensible questions you've asked. And we've been very grateful for you helping us. And I think Mike's going to try and find a replacement and possibly another independent person. But we do thank you for the work you've done over the years. I think we've got Safraz on as well, Safraz Khan, and I hope he can hear too. Can I sign the minutes of the last meeting as true
Yes,
record?
I can hear, Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I can hear, Chair. I just started the meeting. I can hear you. Yes.
Oh yes, okay. You can hear now though. We
Yes,
thanked
please.
Yes, we thanked Tommy for all the work he's done and the years he's been on the committee. I'm sure we'd all agree with that. So thank you. And I'm signing the minutes. Thank you very much for that. And that brings us on to item 6, the Treasury update, and that's over to you, Bridget.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Basically, this is the Treasury Management Quarterly Report, which updates on the Council's borrowing and investment activities for the quarter ending the 31st of December 2023. We highlight that all Treasury Management activities were carried out within the approved limits and we provide information on some of the prevailing economic conditions. There's nothing to highlight here in this report, but the report is really for noting the Treasury Management activities and performance, as well as the Council's investment balance for the period. Just that we earned 4.694% during the period, slightly under the benchmark, largely because our investments are well in advance of interest rates rising. So unless there are any questions, there is nothing that I need to particularly highlight for the quarter. We have also appended the Treasury Management Strategy, which basically outlines the confines within which we will be operating and the powers that are delegated to the Strategic Director Resources for the year ahead.
Thank you very much, Bridget. Are there any questions to Bridget on this report? None? Well, we're very happy to note it, and thank you, Bridget, and the strategy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, that takes us to item 7, public sector audit arrangements. Mike, I think that's it. Or is it? Sorry, Emily. Not Emily. Sorry.
So the report is to inform the audit committee about the joint statement and consultations that have currently come out that set out plans to deal with the audit backlog, the national audit backlog, and to recommend that the committee note the update to the joint statements, consultation. I'd recommend going into the documents and reading for further detail. So there's a lot in those joint statements. Have a read of them, but if I just highlight point 3.5, sorry, where it sets out the phases. So currently we're looking the consultation, we'll be heading into phase 1, which is the reset. So this is involving a backstop where all historical audits and audit opinions that currently haven't been signed off, including the year 2022-23, this will be done by the 30th of September 2024. And I'd also point out in point 3.7 that as the cross-system statement in July, the proposed backstop date is likely to result in modifications and disclaimers, that system partners will provide clear communication on that. And if that modified or disclaimed opinions are caused by the backstop date, and that they do not necessarily indicate significant financial reporting or management issues in the local bodies. So it's just to highlight that point that the consultation is out, and it appears that some audit opinions may be modified or disclaimed opinions based on the fact that we've got this backstop date. If anyone's got any questions on that, but I do recommend having a good read of it. And if you do have any questions after this, if you haven't managed to read it yet, then feel free to come to me.
Thank you, Emma. Jonathan, did you want to come in on this at all?
I think, evening everyone. I think Emma's summarised it well. I just wanted to be available if anyone had any questions for us on it. I think the consultation closes, I think, on the 7th of March. And as Emma has said, the first main backstop date is the end of September this year, and that would apply to all years of account up to and including March 23. We are obviously still finalising our work on 21 and expect to sign that soon. The next priority for all years is completing the value for money audit work that's required, and that is required to be completed before the backstop date. And we'll be having a number of conversations with finance about the remaining work and timetabling and scheduling for that. But happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jonathan. Can I ask Mike if you're confident we'll have everything done by that date, the 24th?
Yeah, so it's probably a question for both myself and Jonathan. So we are due to meet to discuss a plan to make sure that we do meet that date. There has been good progress on the value for money so far, and that will continue up to that backstop date. So as Jonathan pointed out, the 2021 accounts, we are very close to finishing those now, although it feels like we've been like that for a while. Certain issues have come up, like RAC, that have delayed it further, but we are close to that one, and the value for money work has progressed quite well. So I'm confident that we'll meet that date, and I unless Jonathan has any other opinion on that, I think between us, a plan will be put into place, working with both Deloitte and then Mazars, our new auditors, to move forward with this year at the same time.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you. Jonathan, did you want to add to that?
I agree. We will agree a plan to meet that date. I mean, I would expect that there will be some level of modification of opinions because of the backstop date on open years of account, consistent with other authorities in that position. But certainly, I agree with Emma. We are hopeful of signing the 21 accounts very soon, and the other mandatory things like value for money work should be on track for completion in advance of that date.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to ask anything? No, we'll just note that progress. Thank you. And that brings us on to item 8. And I think that's you again, Emma.
Yes, that's me again. So this is to inform the audit committee regarding the self-assessment against the Financial Management Code. So nothing really to highlight with this one. Obviously, you've got all of the detail. Apologies for how small it is again. It's quite hard to fit in all the columns on the appendix. But if you have any questions on that, and it was just to note that obviously I know Tommy raised last time that he wanted a bit more detail on what the continued work is. So we've tried fulfilling that for the areas of improvement and really highlighting and being clear on the areas that we're looking into and what we're progressing with. But happy to take any questions if anyone has anything on
that. Tommy, go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Emma. This is a really helpful self-assessment. Can I refer to page 91? It's the first of the standards. And just the response on the area for improvement around, second one, around the areas for improvement, continue to develop financial skills and knowledge across the function. Just wondered if you could bring that to life a bit more. What does that look like? And also linked to that, is there succession planning being built in? Just given recent history and experience, I think it's quite an important point. Well, it's always an important point. Not only developing our individuals now for the skills needed today, but succession planning in the future. Thank you.
Yes, so we are constantly assessing the teams and the training needs and any development needs within the teams. But you're right, we are also looking at succession plans at all time. I know we do quite a lot of assessment on sort of the profiling of the age profiling, especially as well within the authority, to make sure that we've got succession planning with that, where we've got a lot of experience and a lot of people that have been here for a long time and then new people coming in. So we are constantly assessing that, and where we've got to continue to develop in financial skills and knowledge, we're looking at bringing in, using where we can, the apprenticeship levy, offering that training and support for chartered or AATs through the teams. It's just, we're on this a sort of a cycle of constant review as the team. If we have a turnover of staff, we'll assess it again and move forward on that. So although I know, we said we wouldn't say continually improve, but this one is a continuous cycle of assessing the teams where we're needing, highlighting any gaps of experience or anything coming forward in the future where we know that somebody needs to move to a certain area. We are training and developing as we move through, and like we said, trying to make the most of the apprenticeship levy that's available to us as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ian, go ahead.
Similar question. I think that other departments, I don't think it's any secret, obviously, it's in the wages bill. Other departments seem to be relying on casual workers, agency staff. Is that the case with the finance function?
So within my team itself, there's a couple of agency staff, but that's to get us a handover period until we permanently recruit. So we have a minimum period of recruitment. There are agency staffs in finance and across finance, but that's generally to ensure that there's a continuity of the business moving forwards. There's a push for permanent, so temp to perm recruitment, and we're actively working on that to make sure that we're meeting, we're making sure that the salary is comfortable. There's no market supplements needed. Everything is being assessed at the moment to try and get those temp to perms in. So yeah, we are moving forward on that one as well, because I do appreciate that it's been highlighted with the agencies. Yeah.
And I think there's work going on behind the scenes because there's lots of new people in HR and they're looking at temporary positions and seeing if they can convert them into permanent ones, because it's better for the authority and so on. But thank you. Any more questions to Emma on that report? No, then.
Sorry, we've lost the room.
Sorry, sorry about that. So this is my internal audit plan. My frequent flyers will recognise the process described of meeting with strategic directors and key stakeholders, getting a view, speaking to PwC as our strategic partner, looking at London Audit Group, benchmarking with our partner Hounslow, to come up with a very long list and then a prioritised list of areas of coverage. The 1 year operational plan, so what will be the audits that we'll be starting to look at next year, are set out on page 104, and largely for members' information is the strategic plan, which kind of covers the 5-year framework of audits. We don't necessarily cover everything in the 5 years, but we try and flag to give an indication and make sure we cover those topics and discuss the level of risk and whether they should be covered. Probably just to note, one of the areas I've introduced around risk management is not an audit of risk management, to look at some of the risks that are on the register, to try and validate those and make sure the mitigations are actually operating and in place. as described, and to challenge the scoring and make sure that the risk register stays live. So that's a variation from how we've audited in the past. Most of the audits, as you'll recognise when we get to the risk register, could almost have done them the other way around. Most of those audits have been covered in the last couple of years. Sorry, most of those risks have been covered in the last couple of years, and as rightly would expect. And whilst we didn't have the risk register, it was working in the background, and whilst that's new, we kind of knew what the risks were likely to be. And so I was using that to inform my risk process as well as my own evaluations of risk. Any questions on that paper, please?
Any questions to Mike on this? Oh, Tommy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. It says on page 108 of the pack that you're planning to insource work. I wondered if you could just talk us through a bit more of the thought process around that. Obviously, we've had a long relationship with sort of a co-source arrangement, so there's obviously a deliberate move there.
Yeah, so I mean, we've had a change in finance directors, and it's something that's been considered for a period of time, and I think now felt like a good time to have a look to see whether we could do it. So you may have seen we've already advertised for a deputy head of audit who will lead the audit function, and then the intention is for them to recruit a team to basically deliver the work. We've got a phasing period, so PwC will continue to deliver audits and also ultimately provide a contingency once that's in place. But we felt it was a good time to, we've been well established. I've been here for a period of time. We've got a couple of experienced auditors, but we wanted to kind of expand that offering. We recognise there are some quite technical audits, like some of the ICT stuff, where it's helpful to have contractors, because by the time you trained your auditor to the latest level of IT, the IT's moved on. So we recognise there's still a need to do that, but we felt actually because we're a shared service working across two businesses and with the council and companies, growing our own and getting developing, enhancing that knowledge would work, should work well, and kind of some of the feedback from the business was suggesting that. So we thought we'd give it a go now, and we're very open to difficulties in recruiting, but we've had some positive responses to the first round. So hopefully we'll be able to do more on that, and I'll bring you updates as we start to implement that fully.
Thank you. Any more questions on this? No? Or can we approve the...
Sorry, if I may, on 109, just this year's plan, I don't have any questions about this year's plan per se, but it would be helpful for the committee, if you can answer it now, probably to give a flavour of what's not made the cut. So that 5-year plan, is that the whole audit universe, or are there things that haven't made it on there and this is what would be considered over 5 years?
Everything we've done and everything I think we should do is on here. Inevitably, there's always new stuff that crops up from time to time. So, for example, the new regulations in housing and those kind of things. So this is my attempt to try and document the universe. And I do, I never take anything off. I just keep adding to it. So we won't necessarily audit everything every time, but I'll revisit it to say, why haven't we done this in the 5-year framework?
Yeah.
And flag to committee if, you know, for example, there's no ticks, it's been considered as an area. I'll still keep it there as part of my universe in case we wish to go back to it. But in essence, this is as comprehensive a list as I have, and I compare this to Hounslow because there's always kind of variants and things like that. But to me, it's a useful aid memoir, and when I see a tick, I kind of pick that up with management to see if it's an area of risk and try and evaluate that risk to say, do we need to do it now, or or just can it be pushed back into the future? But it's as comprehensive a list as I have in a complex world of local government, which has so many different facets and operations.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything? No? So we'll approve the draft internal audit plan. Right, thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair.
And then that brings us on to item 10, which is internal audit and investigations. And Mike, this is you again.
Thank you, Chair. So this is my usual audit update. Pleased to say the delivery of the plan is going with the plan, and we're meeting our targets on that largely. We delivered 5 audits to final in the period, all of which received reasonable assurance. You'll note follow-ups have crept up again. A little bit concerning, and a couple of areas there where I think I'm pressing them to move on. I think some may not have moved on since last time, but may not show progress since last time, but they are continuing to move on, and we are touching base with them to make sure they are. But the revised implementation date isn't yet due. I have raised concerns with the utilities because we've not had a revised implementation date post February. We still are in February. But I'm keen to try and make sure that those actions are moved forward. I'm pleased to say Ealing Music Service, which has been an area of concern, that the payroll has moved on and they now have started to do the inventory. It's not been completed yet, but that is in progress. So we basically took this to SLT ahead of coming to you, and that's been progressed. A couple of areas of concern, and I think if we don't see progress ahead of the next committee, you may wish to ask the officers to attend if they don't progress. Capital programs, Broadway living, utilities, probably are those 3.
Thank you very much. It's good to see that the music service is improving and taking your advice. Anybody else want to ask on things? Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Just going into the table, 4.4, there is corporate resources, 2 and 3, number 2. It says work in progress. Is there a reason why it can't have a target date, or what is the work progress? How long has been the work progress? There seem to be quite a few here.
So this is the status of the audit at the time of reporting. So it means the audit's been started. It hasn't been finished yet. So we're expecting to have completed all of these to at least drafts by the end of March. And hopefully when we come to see you in June, we'll have finalised all of them. So we'll give you a progress update. But I'm hoping most of these will have been finalised by that time.
By March. Okay.
And any other questions on this? No, good to see all this progress, and we'll note that. Thank you. Very good. And that brings us on to item 11, which I think is yours again, Mike.
It is. So pleased to bring you our new risk register. Following a couple of false starts, we've worked closely with a relatively new SLT to do initially a workshop and then revisions and reiterations. I went and did a benchmark against 10 other local authorities, London Audit Group, and various work to pull together a full list of risks for management to consider. And I took this to them recently, and it's now been agreed. As you'd expect, this is always a working and ongoing document, and with kind of new leadership in the organisation, risks continue to evolve and things continue to change. The mitigations, I think, need more work to make sure we're populating those and getting those right. But I think a pleasing start, and something that we now have commitment to work to from the authority. So really pleased to bring this to you after a couple of periods where we were working through it. Any questions on?
Thank you. It was quite interesting to read this, and some of the earlier reports talking about children without without access to public funds. What happens to them? Where does the money come from? From the service?
So basically then, yeah, what it means is they don't have access
Mm.
to
I know they're refugee children and
to
things.
benefits packages and
Mm.
stuff like that. So the council has to find the accommodation and support for them until such time as the asylum is granted. So it's a pressure on the council to find those monies.
So does that come out of the central pot, or is it off the service pot?
I think technically it's the service pot, but obviously it's a
Yes, I understand,
central.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not. I think that there has been some funding, but some councils are more, I would say, susceptible to this as a pressure because they have more. They take on more asylum seekers. I think, I mean, early on when it started to happen across London, some councils had massive pressures, some had very little pressures. It's something we continue to monitor and track here, and there's an audit happening at the moment to try and ensure that we are reviewing that and trying to make sure that as people become entitled to the benefit system, they're then moved on to that to stop those pressures, and we try and liaise with the Home Office to identify that as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Tommy, go ahead.
Thank you. And well done. The risk register, it looks like it's a good exercise and it's shaping up really well. Can I just two general points, although I've got a couple of examples of it. I guess the status of mitigating actions. I sort of cringe a bit whenever I see ongoing. To me, it suggests it's not really a mitigating action, but it's just what we do. Mitigating actions, I'd like to see something very deliberate to try and change things. To me, they're kind of change actions, not just what we do, and we will always continue to keep an eye on things. So I think there's a real challenge as you look at the risk register more closely, as you said earlier, to really challenge any updates from SLT that just say ongoing. And I also get slightly nervous when I see internal audit put down as the mitigating action. So on page 139, risk 6, the financial control environment, the mitigating action seems to be there'll be an audit review of key financial controls. If I was to be cynical and sort of interpret that a different way, that's to say, we're not going to really monitor this. We'll let audit tell us if it's okay or not. And that's not managing the risk. That's finding out later things are wrong. So I'll just sort of challenge the management, less you, but management on, is that really the mitigating action? That will be a checkpoint to get assurance. But that shouldn't be an action.
No, I think I take your point on that one. I think the specific reason on that was that there was through this process and through the kind of feedback, obviously we've had a number of new SLT members, and this was a bit of a recurring theme over some of the existence of some of the what I would call basic controls, and I think we kind of recognized that these things were there, but I think just getting you're right, it's not a mitigation, but I think it's an important checkpoint that the risk is being addressed, and I think through that audit process would get some of the assurances that the things that have been put in place are working. But I take that on board, and you're absolutely right on the ongoing stuff, and I think it's probably become a bit of a habit here to do that, and that's one of the reasons why I also wanted to implement these deep dives to kind of challenge some of that, because I also know that people say ongoing and kind of these things drop out. So I wanted to get the stuff recorded and build the register, but I think there is still work to do on the mitigations, and those are helpful challenges which will help me challenge management on them, and hopefully move those forward. So appreciate that.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else want to ask anything on the risk register? No, I think it's very useful having it here. I know it always existed, but it's good for us to see it, isn't it? Oh, well, thank you for that. And we've seen the progress there. And so thank you to everybody. And before we go, once again, can I thank Tommy for his service over the years, and we will miss you and wish you all the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Kind words. Thank you.
Everybody.